Hello guys, and happy Tuesday again. So in today's video I kind of wanted to just have a sit down, small chit chat and basically talk through what's been happening with my salary, because as you may have seen, my salary has increased, and it has actually increased by about 17% recently. So that's been happening at work. So I just kind of wanted to go through my journey, talk through what's been happening and give you guys some tips as well. So if you are looking to increase your salary, hopefully that will help and hopefully you can learn from my experiences. And yes, it has increased during a pandemic. So I got my increase, I think I got told a few weeks ago, so it would have been November time, and I will basically then get my new pay rise in December. So quite excited for that. Actually, when you add it up though, it's probably about a couple of £100 a month, but to be honest, every little helps, so I can't even complain. But first, if you are new to my channel, then hello, my name is Veronia, and on this channel I talk about things to do with money, your career and having a positive mindset for success. So if that does sound great to you, then be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that bell notification below so you don't miss out on any new videos. So most of you guys will know that before I was earning just under £30,000. So I was earning between £25,000 to £30,000. in case you are interested. And now that I've increased my salary, I am now earning just under £35,000. So it has been about a 17% increase. And a lot of you guys will know that when I was earning under £30,000, my salary hadn't changed probably for about 2 years. So the only time my salary did increase was when we had like a 2% increase, and that was just to keep up with inflation. So I didn't have like a big promotion. And also, if you're new to my channel, you might not know that I currently work in human resources. Before that, I was actually studying a master's in human resource management and organizational behavior, and then before that I was working in recruitment, and before that I was studying sports science as a degree. I know that a couple of you have asked me to do a video talking through my career, so I will probably do that at some point, but that is basically where I am now. So I've been working in HR for a couple of years now. So in terms of increasing my salary, it is something that I have wanted to do for a long time. So when I first joined the company, I was actually coming into an entry-level role. So initially I had applied for a graduate scheme. I was unsuccessful, unfortunately, but the company saw that I had some experience in recruitment, and also I had a master's as well, so it meant that I was actually able to get an entry-level role. So basically an internal recruiter contacted me and I went through interviews and I was basically successful. Now within that role, because obviously it was an entry-level role, I was doing a lot of support. So I would be supporting my manager in some of the projects that they would be doing, and this is where I will talk about my first tip. So I would say if you are looking to get a promotion or you're really looking to increase your salary, the first thing I would do is really trying to excel in my role, and that's exactly what I did for those 2 years. So even though I came into an entry-level role and it was just supporting in a sense, I was trying to perform exceptionally. So I would be trying to educate myself as much as possible. I was really trying to learn as much about the industry, because even though I did a master's in HR, that was very theory based. So when you're thinking about how it practically works, that's when things can be completely different. So I had to really learn about like what it's like to work in the corporate place, and you know, working with different teams, making PowerPoint decks, how you basically liaise with other stakeholders. All of those things I had to learn, and I had to learn it quite quickly. Now of course, when you first start your job, you're not going to know anything, especially if you were very inexperienced like me. Like I did recruitment, but that was like less than a year, and I did a bit of agency work, but I didn't really have that much work experience per se, because before that I was at university, so I didn't have much work experience. So I needed to learn a lot of stuff, and the one thing that I did is I kept asking questions. So curiosity was a big thing, especially in the company that I work at, but a lot of the times if I didn't know anything, I wasn't afraid to ask questions, and I would really try to understand the business and understand how my role plays a part and understand how I can get to the next level. So again, that's something that I would encourage if you are new to your role. Even if you're not new to your role, actually, I always think it's good to ask questions and to really gain an understanding of what you're doing and why you're doing it and why your whole team works. So the fact that I was able to get a bit of context and I was able to get a bit of background and understanding, it helped me to actually perform in my role, and not only just do the task, but it allowed me to go above and beyond in everything that I did. Because of that, that's when my manager started to give me more responsibility, and I even asked for more responsibility. So I asked to start to take on more projects. So rather than me just supporting in a project, I started leading on projects, and I think that was probably about, I'd say, 6 months into my role. So I had already started to accelerate my progress within those kind of first 6 months. Now when you're first first starting a role, of course you don't really know anything, so you're really just trying to get used to the different scenery, I guess. And obviously this was my first kind of corporate company that I was working at, so it did take a bit of getting used to. But once I had gone past that, that's when I really started to get confident, and I saw that your colleagues really don't mind if you don't know the answer to everything. If you're not afraid to ask questions and to just basically say, look, I don't know this, but I'm willing to learn, a lot of people will find value in that. And that's kind of what I saw. So that enabled me to start to gain more responsibility. So I then started on taking more projects, and it was then getting to a point where rather than just supporting or just kind of maybe starting to own the projects, I was basically leading on some of those projects. So I think that's definitely where my next tip will come, is to not be afraid to make mistakes, basically, because obviously the more responsibility I had, the more mistakes I was going to make. And I think it's so interesting because in school you're kind of taught not to make any mistakes. So if there's a day and you have an exam and you're just not feeling up to it and you end up making mistakes, that could cost you your grade. So because of that, when I came into the workplace, I just kind of thought I had to be this sort of perfectionist and I just had to get everything right. But I basically learned that you can make mistakes and you will make mistakes. Not that you can, but you will. But it's the fact that once you've made those mistakes, you can learn from them. And I was able to grow a lot because I'd learned from those mistakes. So I think it was about a year after I had got to the point where I had a lot more responsibility and I was still excelling in those projects. So I was still performing well. And then I started thinking, okay, I'm taking on these projects and I'm taking a lot more responsibility and I'm excelling in those projects. Shouldn't my pay have slightly changed? I mean, I know we got that 2% increase because of inflation, but I kind of just thought, isn't it time that, you know, my work started reflecting my pay, basically? So when I kind of had that realization, it got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to talk to my manager. But there were a few things that I wanted to do before I even started talking to my manager, just so that I was best prepared. So the first thing I did, which I think a lot of people will probably find is quite taboo, but I started talking to colleagues about salaries, and I wanted to get a bit of an understanding on like how much they were getting paid. Now, it wasn't just for me to be nosy, but I wanted to figure out, okay, if this person has a similar level of responsibility or if they're doing similar tasks, not exactly the same tasks, but let's say if they're working on projects or if they're starting to manage projects, I wanted to figure out how much they were getting paid for that type of work. Now, I'm not talking about equal pay. So if someone does the exact same job as me and they have the same task and they're getting paid differently to me, then that's a different situation because that shouldn't be happening. But I'm just talking about people that may have slightly similar tasks in their role or slightly similar responsibilities. So not exactly the same, but you know, they could be working on a completely different project or they might be in a different team, but just to get a bit of an understanding. So for example, if someone has more of a project management role compared to like a supporting role, I want to be able to understand with their project management role, what kind of salary are they getting, so that I can have a bit of an understanding in terms of how much I should be getting, because I'm starting to do those kind of project management roles, if that makes sense. Now, first of all, I did not just go to my colleagues and say, hey, how much are you getting paid? It wasn't really like that. I was just having a conversation and I was just basically just asking them, okay, because you kind of do this responsibility, what's your kind of pay band? So in our company, actually in most companies, you will have different pay grades. So I think we use something called the Hay grade, and depending on the task and the responsibilities that you get, you will basically sit on a particular pay grade, if that makes sense. So for example, if you are more of a support role or if you're more of an admin role, you'll have a particular pay grade compared to someone that might be a manager. So what I wanted to understand is, within that particular pay grade, are you likely to be maybe on the lower end, the middle end, or the high end, so that I can just get a bit of an understanding as to where I think I should be, basically. So yeah, I do think people might find it taboo or they just find it uncomfortable to talk about salaries, but personally I think for full transparency, I would like to know how much people are earning, not the exact number, but just the area, just for me to understand, okay, am I being paid what I'm worth, basically. But yeah, I definitely do think it's something that we need to talk about more often. I mean, I don't know if you guys agree, maybe I'm just a loner on this, but yeah, let me know in the comments if you guys talk about maybe salaries at work with your colleagues, or if it's just a total no-go. So once I basically had some chats with my colleagues, the other thing that I needed to do was actually list out my accomplishments. Now, this is something that I do every single time. So if I know that I've been doing a successful project, or if I know that I've been helping out a team, or literally just anything, I will make sure I write it down every single time. And I don't only do this just to add on to my CV, but it's for me to actually have evidence and remember what I've done, like in the past months or the past year, or whilst I've basically been in that particular role. So I basically had a note about everything that I've done, and I'd actually pulled out my responsibilities. So I really wanted to explain exactly what I did and how I performed, basically. Now, I did this because I knew that when I was going to have that conversation, I needed to have evidence. I can't just be like to my manager, oh, hey, can you just give me a pay increase? Because, you know, because I can't do that. So I needed to give evidence. I needed to show, look, this is what you're paying me right now. I don't think my pay actually reflects what I'm currently doing, and this is what I'm currently doing. These are the responsibilities that I have, and this is how I've performed. And this was really going to be useful when it came to things like my end of year performance reviews. So at work, you'll basically have performance reviews with your manager, so you will see how you've basically done over the past year or however long it's been, basically, and you will talk through what you've done, what have you accomplished, have you excelled, how do you think you've handled situations, for example, how do you think you've performed as well. So during my performance interviews is when I actually started to use the opportunity to start talking about my salary. Now, of course, I was very nervous. I didn't actually want to do it. I think I was scared, because you start thinking, you know, if I start demanding all this money, like, are they basically just going to fire me? Which obviously wasn't the case. But I think how you communicate it is very important as well. So I didn't just go to my manager and say, by the way, you're not paying me well, so can you do it? Otherwise I'm going to quit. I just genuinely had the conversation. So I think how it went, I don't really remember, because actually I started having the conversation over a year ago, I would say. But from what I remember, I think after we'd kind of spoken about my end of year review, I just said I did want to have a talk about my salary, because obviously I've been getting a lot more responsibility in my job. And then basically I started listing all the projects I had done and the responsibility I had within those projects, and also reflecting on my performance as well. So basically talking through, you know, what I was able to learn, what I was able to do, how I actually performed in that task. So basically I was backing myself up and just explaining, look, I don't think my pay reflects what I'm doing right now. This is what I have been doing, and this is how I have performed in it. And it had got to a point where my manager actually agreed, and it was something that she wanted to do anyway. So even before I even had the conversation, she'd already realized. But I think it was still good for me to bring up, because in her eyes, I may have just been content with what I was doing and just not in the rush to get paid anymore. And maybe the process would have taken a little bit longer than it should have. But because I then went to her and basically said, look, I'm not really happy with my pay, I think that's kind of what sped up the process a little bit. So then you're probably thinking, oh, I must have just got my pay increase and it was all happy days. Well, no. In my company, we were basically having another organizational change, and then my manager wasn't my manager anymore, and then we were waiting for a new manager. So it basically meant that I would have to have this conversation all over again, which obviously I was then tired, because then I was thinking, oh my gosh, this process is going so slow, like what's happening, like, and my pay hadn't changed. But then eventually my new manager came in, so again I had to have the conversation. But obviously it's a bit difficult because she's new, she doesn't actually know how I've performed, so I can't really tell her, you know, like, I've done all of this, by the way, and you're not paying me enough, because she's not gonna know, like, she was completely new. So yeah, when I had the initial conversation, to be honest, I didn't let it go. I went straight into there, and of course wanted to get to know her, because obviously she was then asking me, you know, what I had been doing. And I told her from the get-go, I said, look, this is my job description, this is what I'm currently doing, what I'm doing does not reflect my job description, and that does not reflect my pay. So I had to tell her from the start, because I wasn't going to be in a place where I was going to let this delay for another couple of years. Like, I wanted those changes, and I was quite adamant to get that done. And for me, again, I wasn't aggressive in terms of like, you're not paying me. All I kind of just said was, look, this is the conversation that I'd had with my old manager, so this is what's been happening, so I thought I would just give you an update and let you know. And within those few months, even though she was new, she saw that I was trying to excel in my role. Every single time I would try and perform in my task, in no matter what I was given, like literally in anything that I did, I was always asking questions. I was asking her questions as well. Literally, I was doing the same thing that I had basically previously done, because I wanted her to see, yes, this is what my job description says, but actually in terms of how I'm performing in the role, how I'm presenting myself is completely different. So she could really start to see that in quite a short space of time. So I think she'd got to the point where she really wanted to accelerate the progress and really try and start to get the ball rolling again and get my pay increased. And then COVID happened, so everything changed, everything paused, and I'm sure you guys probably would have experienced just a lot of crazy stuff happen. So there was no conversation about, you know, having a salary increase, and I'd even got to the point where I thought, I'm not going to get a salary increase this year at all. I just thought, well, we are cutting so many costs, there is no way they're going to be able to give me a salary increase. So obviously that had been going for a few months, and we were all working from home. But then just recently, when we were starting to get the business back up and we were starting to work, it then got to a point where actually my manager then started to have the conversation again. To be honest, I even had my doubts. I I'd kind of accepted that my salary wouldn't be increased this year at least. But all of a sudden, and this must have been God, but basically my manager then came to me and said, look, your salary has been increased. And yeah, I was just really happy. And just, you know, after 2 years, it's been a lot of hard work, but we finally got there. I am still at the point where I'm thinking where I want to go within my career and in terms of my promotions and stuff, but the fact that I'm finally kind of getting paid what I should be getting paid is quite good. So again, it's not like a huge salary increase, it's not like it was like a 10k increase, but it's still something. And even though it's like a couple of £100 more a month, that really is going to help me, you know, in terms of like my investing and my savings plans and stuff. So I am still happy that I've been able to get it, you know, despite the circumstances. So I guess the key takeaways and the learnings I've had is, number one, try to excel in your role, because that really helped me when I was trying to give evidence, when I was talking through, you know, why I think I should be paid more than I currently am. The second thing is to be curious, so ask as many questions as you can. You will find that a lot of people do love it when you ask them questions, especially about themselves as well. If you're talking to, you know, someone that's maybe of a senior level, they really do like talking about themselves. The next thing I would say is, please don't be afraid to make mistakes. As I said, mistakes are normal, it's going to happen, so you may as well embrace them and learn from them. And then the other thing I would say is, of course, look through your job description and look through what you're currently doing and see if it matches up, because if it doesn't, then you need to figure out, actually, is your pay reflecting what you are currently doing? And I would also talk to colleagues as well and just gauge what their pay bands are, you know, how much they're likely to earn depending on the responsibilities they have within their role. And then lastly, when you're having the conversation, then make sure you are giving evidence, but also don't be too aggressive. Just try and have a calm conversation and yeah, just be nice about it. Yeah, those are definitely the key learnings that I've had. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel, and I know you guys already know that. Also, let me know in the comments if you have any tips on increasing your salary at work, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to be asking the same question. I do post every Tuesday and Friday, so if you would like to know more, then you can of course subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys on Friday.